Thanks for joining us, Anshu.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anshu, I have met through Lee Constantine from Publishizer, who did the pre-sale of my book and did the pre-sale of Anshu's book as well, which is called, now there are like birds in the background. This is,
Oh my God. Okay. Sorry.
Is there like an interior of the house, like that doesn't have a window nearby?
Okay, I'm gonna try another place.
Because when you asked me, I think you were like on the staircase. That was working.
Okay, I'll go to the staircase then. And
Great.
Let's see if this room would work. This is like as inside as it gets. Or maybe I'll go into my room. Okay. Sorry.
You're fine.
Wait, I'm gonna try another location. I have to kill the rooster. No, I'm just kidding. I know. It's very difficult to find a quiet place in my house. I'm just realizing it.
That I would die in Bali. Like I could not handle that. Now I know. Like I see these videos and I'm like, this looks very like outdoorsy. And when Lee did it, it was thundering. And so the animals were quiet, but the thunder wasn't.
Oh my God. I wonder, maybe this microphone is too sensitive and maybe it's picking up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We will just go with this.
How is this now?
That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
Let's just wait for a moment till you hear the roosters. Let me see. Yeah, that's the thing. All my Facebook lives that I do or all the videos I've recorded, they all have motorbikes, roosters, birds.
Yes, it was the motorbikes on Lee's. That was there because he was like kind of on a street. That's too funny. Okay. It sounds good, I think.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now we will go for it.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, there was the rooster and it's barely audible. So we're good.
Okay.
You went away.
Great.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm going to wait for the video to catch up.
Wait, sorry, Lynn. Now that I'm inside, I need aircon.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. You tell me
the light is okay here?
Yeah, the light's fine.
Okay, I'm ready now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I can't fix my nose. It's all shiny. That's right. Okay. What can you do? I usually keep the powder right next to me.
I know.
That's okay. Nobody watches.
I have the same. I'm like, oh, look at me. I wasn't thinking it's gonna be a video on YouTube. So I would have brushed my hair, but it's
Nobody watches this. Nobody watches this. Don't worry.
That's cute. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna try again. Okay. Thanks for joining us, Anshu.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm good. Now, that was a cute little intro, but for reals, Anshu and I have now tried this 3 times because there are like so many, there are, let us say, animal friends near her in Bali that were making quite the party noise in the background. And so Anshu, yes, is coming to us from Bali, which now seems very exotic, seeing as I just got a rooster and some birds and all kinds of things going in the background. But we are so happy to have you with us. I know Anshu from Lee, through Lee from Publishizer. Publishizer is the book kind of crowdsourcing platform. And that's how I got the pre-sales for my book. And that is how Anshu did the pre-sale for her book as well, which is called Pressure to Pleasure, which just finished. And she pre-sold how many?
526.
That is amazing. Yes. I'm looking very much forward to checking out your book when it comes out.
Thank you.
And Anshu has a very interesting story. As you can hear, she is originally from India, now living in Bali, but her quitting story starts back in good old Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So if you could take us back to what was going on in Silicon Valley before you made the major quit.
Yeah, so I spent 16 years in Silicon Valley. I moved there in 96, and I actually really loved doing software work. I was, I was a software architect. That was my last job. And as a software architect, my job was to design big systems and, have put everything in place. And yeah, it was, I really loved every moment of it. But what happened was that in Silicon Valley, I felt like in that environment, I couldn't be myself. So what I mean by that is, since I have moved away from it, I have really discovered my own true nature, which is a very nurturing nature and a calm and loving. But these qualities don't really gel with Silicon Valley. So in Silicon Valley, the environment that I lived in was cutthroat and competitive and harsh and cold almost, And I really felt like I was losing myself there year after year, even though I was loving what I was doing. So that was so that was what's going on in Silicon Valley. And first time I realized that I wasn't being totally myself was when my first daughter was born. So before that, I was again in that cutthroat. I was going for it. I was competitive, and I was doing everything that it needed in order to climb up the ladder, right? In that corporate environment. But after my first daughter was born, I was like, what is really the point of all this? Because being a mother, all of a sudden, it really, these qualities that I'm talking about, that this is my true nature, it became even more highlighted with her birth. And so I went back to work, and there was another thing, which was a really demanding job, and having a little baby at home doesn't really, I don't know how people do it, because there is a lot of feeling of guilt with it, because I felt like I couldn't do the best for my daughter. I would leave her, this little baby, 2-3 months old, and I would go to work. And it really broke my heart every time I did it. And it was also really crazy that as soon as she was born, I was given a really demanding project at work. Fortunately, I could work from home while I was doing it. But it used to be that I would be breastfeeding her with one hand. I would have the phone, how I have, like would be in a meeting and would be in front of my computer. Like I would be doing 3 things at the same time, So it was pretty hard. That is what was going on, even though I loved it.
You just realize that, okay, this environment is not where I'm going to thrive. It led to feelings of guilt, like you said, and some
Yes.
anxiety about leaving her every day.
Yeah, it just did not feel good, to leave your little baby. I'm sure every mother on the planet can attest to this feeling.
Yeah, I started to think, I was like, have I had other mothers on? And I've had Dr. Amy Killen on, and I'm not sure if in all these episodes I've had other mothers. And it's funny because just today I was on a podcast called The Well Woman Show, and we were talking about quitting, obviously. And she was like, do you think it's harder for women? And as a person who doesn't have any kids, I was like, I'm sure it is, but I have a hard time seeing where it is. But then it's so, the universe works its ways. It's like, oh, this is how it is. Because when you have,
Yeah.
I'm sure you said that your husband at the time had his own business. So was he working from home?
Yes, he did. He wasn't actually even working at that time. Yeah, so he was able to be with her, but we also had a nanny. And, this is, yes, but, as a mother, as I said, it was very, very hard for me.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So from there, how did you finally make that decision? Like, I'm going to quit this job and let's relocate to Bali and give this a try there.
Oh, it was, so what happened was I was in this really demanding kind of job, as I said, I was a software architect in a really big Silicon Valley company, and I was trying to give it my best. But in that process, I was really burning out myself. I was trying to be the best mother. I was still trying to manage my home, and I was, I was still giving my best to the job. But when after my second daughter was born, and in the meantime, I was also pregnant. So talk about, like, it's pretty crazy, right? At that time, I said to their dad, I said, I really want to spend time with my babies. They're going to be big girls in no time. And I really, really want to just leave for a year and spend some time with them while they're still little. So especially, at least with the second one, I can be still with her when she's still a baby. So we rented our house out and we packed up everything and we left to come to Bali for a year. And it is here where I really started to feel like as I was sharing the story with you earlier, that I did my yoga teacher training while I was in Bali. I had already always done yoga, like, since I was a kid, really. And even when I was in Silicon Valley, just to kind of manage my stress, I was like, okay, this is a good time. I'm on a break. I'll do a yoga teacher training. But the intention behind that was maybe I'll create a yoga app, right? Because I'm still the geeky and the tech in me. But when I first started my yoga class, it was like as part of like meeting the requirements for this training, I had these feelings, this something opened in my heart, or you can call it like I felt like I was being reborn almost. It's hard to describe this feeling. I felt really myself. I felt amazing, and I was like, this is what I meant to do. I meant to make a difference in people's lives. But it took me some few months to process it. And in those few months, I couldn't even sit in front of the laptop. All I wanted to do was teach. And so I would just, do free classes for people. Like, I just wanted to teach. I knew that that is my path. And and after a few months of that, I was like, I can't go back to Silicon Valley. I really need to be in Bali. And that was, I think, the first time I made this decision, but it was a freaking scary, scary, scary decision.
Yeah, I imagine. What were some of the fears you encountered?
Oh my God. I mean, so at that time, I had no idea. I was like, okay, I'm not going back. But then what? Am I living in Bali? Am I going somewhere else? Like, where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do? Because as I said, I have done software work. Like, I had worked for other people for 20 years out of those 16 years in Silicon Valley, right? That's all I knew. I'm like, so what am I going to do now? How am I going to make money? How am I going to, like, I really felt like I needed to make money. So that was really scary as well. And and also I had a life in US. I had my friends in US, and but I just somehow like my logical mind said you need to go back, but there was something inside me that said no, you cannot leave. So I did not leave. It was kind of crazy that I went back to US just to visit. So all my stuff was still sitting in the garage of the house. I went back after 4 years. I had not even gone back.
Wow.
Yeah, the transformation was pretty rapid.
I can imagine. And that is what came from listening to your intuition. I love that because you, like you said, you're a left brain person or had been for so many years. And so
Yes.
logic was generally your friend, but you said no logic. I'm
This
listening
is
to my
not
gut.
logical, right?
Yes. And so how did you overcome those fears and stay in Bali anyway?
Yeah, so that has been a journey that is still continuing, to be honest with you. I decided to, I decided to really change my lifestyle that did not involve, spending so much money. um, I decided to, and I still had some savings, so that was really helpful as well, so savings from before. Um, but one of the things I had to do was I had to go on a journey of self discovery. And what this means is, like when you go through this big transition in life, as I said, there's huge fears coming up. And I had to find the purpose of life. Like, so of course my logical brain was telling me, go back, go back. Why are you not going back? But there was, as my, my intuition and my heart was keeping me back here. So I'm like, so what is the purpose of life? Is my purpose of life to just go back and keep earning money and keep being in that environment? Or is there something bigger to life? Right. And that is the soul searching mission I went on. Like, I read many, many books, I attended many workshops. I did something called a breathwork training, which I actually, I facilitate these sessions for people right now. And in breathwork, I really, it's really literally through the power of my breath, I really connected even deeper to my intuition, deeper to, you can call it my higher self or my soul or whatever, depending on whatever you believe in. Or you can say I connected deeper to myself. And I was like, no, this is my path. This is what I need to do. So it took almost 2 years. And then there was my family, because my dad was like, what are you doing? Like, you left all the established career. I was doing really well back in Silicon Valley, and he's like, how can you leave it? My dad could not make sense of it. But again, I couldn't go back. So and also I went through a big transition. I lost my father in between as well. And that was also, then I again got shaken up. I was like, okay, he was a pillar of strength in my life, and but again, I had to make a decision. It's like, no, I know he wanted me to be on this path, but this is what I need to find myself. And I know this is my path going forward.
Yes, that takes a lot of strength to stand up in the face of your family, questioning everything you do. Especially for, like
Yeah.
you said, you and I were talking before, you're from a traditional Indian family and they have an idea of what's supposed to happen for their children.
Yes, exactly.
Pressure. Yes.
Yes.
So were you able to before he passed, were you able to explain, like, I realize that you have one vision for me, but I have to go with my heart here?
Yeah. Thank you for asking this question, because I had such a, yes, it was actually literally just, I want to say it was maybe a month or 3 weeks before he passed. I didn't know. I mean, nobody knew that he was going to die. He, he'd been a heart patient for many years. And, but he was doing pretty well in his journey of dealing with heart disease. Um, and I had just finished my breathwork training. And as I said, I had now really clear guidance of what I needed to be. And he was giving me a hard time. I was on Skype with him and I said, I have really decided that I need to give this a try. And this is my path. I feel it very, very strongly. And it's so beautiful that at that moment he said, okay, do what feels right to you. And it was such an empowering moment, because it was almost like I got his blessing to be on this path. Because literally couple of weeks after that, I had to go and be with him in the hospital, and he became really sick, and and then he passed away. So I feel, and even in the hospital, while I was in the hospital, we had some conversations and he was okay, so it is almost like I got his blessing, and I could just, yes, I had to become myself finally.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I love that he in the end understood, because that's what I say, like, if they really love you, if your family really loves you,
Yeah.
don't they want you to be you and pursue what makes you happy, and not this idea that they got from society somewhere, or that even that they've just a lot of parents are like, I've worked so hard for this, you've got to keep working hard to keep
Yeah.
this legacy, and that's a lot of pressure to put on your kids when they're just like,
My whole book is about pressure, right?
yes,
My whole book, because this has been my path, because I was under so much pressure, like of the family pressure, the society pressures from job, that I made this my path to teach people how to get from this state of pressure, whether it's internal pressure or external pressure, and to go into a state of pleasure and aliveness and being yourself. So thank you for saying that. Yes.
absolutely. I'm so looking forward to reading this. But I love that you've walked that walk. You've been in the pressure cooker, and now you're like, hey, if I can get free, let me help others.
Yes.
It's a lovely place to come writing a book from. I really appreciate that. So when we were talking before we started, there was another quip that preceded this, and it's along those same lines of kind of family and cultural pressure. So if you
Yeah.
take us back to quitting your first marriage, and what kind of fears you had to overcome there and how you addressed them.
Yeah. So this was a long time ago. And this marriage wasn't the right marriage for me. I actually, but again, as I said earlier in our conversation, I come from India, a very traditional society where women are taught to give their best to their marriages. We are not supposed to quit our marriages, right? So there I was in this marriage that was really killing me bit by bit, and I actually contemplated killing myself. I was like, I cannot live like this. I was depressed. I was just not feeling good. And when 9/11 happened, I had already been married, I want to say about 5 years by that time. But when 9/11 happened, literally, I say this to people that 9/11 gave me my life back, because I saw people, it was people like me and you, right? They were working in the World Trade Center and they died. And it was like this, I got jolted out of this thing that, oh my God, like my life can end tomorrow. And is this how I'm going to live the rest of my freaking life, And I couldn't do it. I could not do it. So it was literally a few months after this, I decided to leave a big house in Silicon Valley, leave all my belongings, leave all my friends, because I was so scared of being judged, and I put all my stuff in my little car and I moved to a studio apartment. And I was really happy after I made this decision. And but I was, my dad did not talk to me for 1 year after this. He was so angry at me that I had made this decision. But fortunately, my mom supported me, my sister supported me, and I had, but it was really, there was a lot of shame. There is a lot of shame for a woman, for an Indian woman, to leave her marriage. A lot of guilt, a lot of like fear, but I had to really just overcome it, because I'm like, again, I'm like almost in tears.
Oh.
I feel like, like the life can end tomorrow. And this is how I make all my decisions. It's like, okay, I have this limited amount of time. How do I want to live this life? So every year I say, okay, if this was my last year, what am I like? How is this going to look like? And that's how I can make these crazy decisions of quitting and writing a book. I'm like, I'm just doing it.
It's so beautiful. I love that. So when you were leaving that marriage and you had all these fears, was it literally just that thought of like, I could die tomorrow? The drive to live a life with no regrets was just greater than your fear?
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. It was that drive that, yeah, I mean, life is meant to be lived. Life is not meant to be like in that environment, living for other people. I love doing things for other people. I'm a very family oriented, friends oriented person. But to live in that environment where you're being beaten down on continuously, where you're being abused, where you're being sort of told that you're no good, like, it's like, what's the point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So
there's life and then there's living. And just to be
exactly.
alive is not living.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm so happy you went through that journey. That's I was telling somebody the other day, they were talking about, and this is not like getting out of an emotionally abusive relationship, but I was talking about my extremely high student loan debt. And he said, why don't you just work really, really hard for 6 months? Because if I just worked, nonstop for 6 months, maybe I could make some kind of dent in those. And I said to him, same thing. I said, if at 6 months and one day I found out I had some type of cancer and I had 3 weeks to live, think about how I would be so traumatized with the fact that I'd spent my last 6 good months
Exactly.
of life working just to pay down a bank account, like not really living, not living at all, essentially, because I know how much stress it would put on me to have to work that hard. And I said, what, is that the kind of regret I ever want? I said, no, that's not my
Exactly.
value.
Yep. I don't want to live a life of regrets. I just don't. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. I like it. You're the second guest in about 5 guests that I had somebody named Daniel on a bit ago, and his whole thing with quitting was memento mori, which is remember your death, and that's exactly what he used. Like,
Yeah.
this could be all be over at any time. So what's more important? My fear of what my family's going to say, or having a little bit of financial struggle, or the potential life of regret.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. I absolutely agree with that.
I
Yeah.
love it. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all this. There's a lot of touching moments in there. Eh, Now that we're back to where you're in Bali, you have written this book. It's got all kinds of pre-sales. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about the book and a little bit about what you do now that you're not Silicon Valleying anymore.
Yeah. So I, as I was saying that I'm really passionate about helping people get out of the state of pressure and to really live, not just living, but to be alive and to be energized. And that is my passion right now. So I founded a project called the Pleasure Revolution because it's a revolution. I want everybody around the world connecting with the pleasure of living, pleasure of life. So my book is part of that. It's called Pressure to Pleasure, 7 Pillars to Living Your Best Life. And the idea behind this book is to teach people how to get out of the state of pressure, how to shift the patterns of the mind that stops us, and how to invite more pleasure in your life. And so I teach workshops around this material. I do retreats. I just did a beautiful women's retreat in Stockholm, and I have another retreat coming up in Bali in a few months. So yeah, I do different retreats. And other than that, I love teaching yoga. It's still big part of my life. So I teach yoga. And I also do breathwork sessions. So breathwork, as I was saying, it really changed my life. So I want that same life-changing things to happen to more people. And it is very much related to all of this. So yoga, breathwork, it's all related. It's all related to getting people to leave the state of stress and pressure and to move into a more state of pleasure and aliveness and get connected with the energy. So that's what I do. And recently, I'm also on my path to becoming a leader with Tony Robbins because I love Tony Robbins' work, and I'm integrating some of the work that he does into the work that I do. So that is also my path.
Very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I dig that you brought up breath work because a lot of people talk about meditation and journaling and all the above. And my jam is breath work as well.
Right.
I do Kapalabhati breathing in the morning because I've tried meditation, but breath work just seemed to work better. So is there a type of, if anybody happens to be listening and they're like, oh, what should I look up as far as breath work? Any keywords they could pop in Google?
Yes, so the kind of modality I practice is, it's called biodynamic breathwork and trauma release. So it's specifically designed to release stuck trauma and emotions. Like, how some people are still connected to their past and they're not able to move forward because of their traumas of the past. So they could look up BBTR or biodynamic breathwork and trauma release. This breathwork that I do it's actually become my own modality now. It's like based on rebirthing or like these modalities where you're breathing in and out of the mouth, and you could also do these sessions yourself, but it's nice to do them with a practitioner or a facilitator, so that's one kind of breathwork I practice. And I also practice it's called fire breathing. And I have a lot of these different breath techniques in my book as well, with the fire techniques where you're literally pulling the energy from the universe into your body and into your being, and it's really, really great for feeling more alive and more energized.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being with us today and giving us many different aspects of your story. I think I'm very happy, like you said, to have another mother on here, so hopefully more of the moms listening can identify with that same struggle. And just letting us into how you've adapted this is the one life I've got. Let's use that to overcome any fear that we might have. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, for everybody else out there, until next time, happy quitting.